Ukraine claims to have hit more than 40 Russian bombers in what the country's security service says is a large-scale special operation aimed at destroying enemy bomber aircraft. The attacks are reported to have taken place at several Russian air bases, some many thousands of kilometres from Ukraine. Two locations are understood to be in Siberia: the Belaya Air Base in southern Russia and the Olenya Air Base, which is in the north, near Murmansk. Well, the Ukrainian military has released footage which it says shows a line of Russian warplanes at Belaya. It appears to have been filmed by a drone and shows the aircraft exploding. Russian media is reporting the attack in Murmansk but says air defences are working. Our World Affairs correspondent Paul Adams is in Kyiv for us.
Far from Ukraine's borders, an attack of astonishing audacity. Russian strategic bombers picked off one by a fleet of drones. Ukraine calling this Operation Spider's Web, personally overseen by President Zelensky. One of Kyiv's boldest attacks so far, a reminder, despite Russia's overwhelming strength in numbers, that Ukraine is a resourceful, determined enemy. Sources say this took a year and a half to prepare. Dozens of drones smuggled into Russia, stored on wooden pallets, loaded onto trucks, driven to distant air bases and launched remotely. Swarms of drones picked up on social media from Siberia to the Arctic Circle. At a petrol station north of Irkutsk, a glimpse of the operation in progress. With smoke already rising behind, a drone emerges from the truck and heads off to join the attack. Moments later, another, and gunfire as police officers try to bring it down. From base to base, the smouldering aftermath testifying to the scope and ambition of the operation. Ukraine says it's done $2 billion worth of damage, a claim impossible to verify. Earlier, a different kind of wreckage. This, the Ukrainian city of Zaporizhia, after the country suffered another major drone and missile attack. Elsewhere, 12 Ukrainian soldiers were killed at a training base, the head of Ukraine's land forces tendering his resignation. What chance then for another round of peace talks due to take place in Istanbul tomorrow? Russian and Ukrainian delegations are expected to be there, but after 24 hours of mayhem, the omens for a breakthrough do not seem good.
Paul Adams reporting there. Well, for more analysis, I spoke earlier to Mikey Kay, the presenter of the BBC's Security Brief programme. Well, Mikey's also a former senior officer in the British military.
Two very separate locations, Regini, one in Murmansk up on the Finnish border, but the really critical one is the one down in Irkutsk, which is all the way down to the east on the Mongolian border. So thousands and thousands of kilometres apart. And Ukrainians have combined a concept of sabotage and just how difficult it is to not only detect a drone or swarms of drones, but actually take them down as well. And, I was speaking about this on the Ukraine cast just the other day with Lucy Hawkins. There's a lot of drone technology out there. Ukraine is leading from the front on that for offensive strike. But the bit which is really making governments struggle at the moment is how do you detect and then how do you shoot them down, especially if they're a swarm? And we can see from this video footage just how devastating the effect is. You're talking about strategic, long-range, deep attack assets. So you've got an A-50 in there, which has been hit, which is an airborne early warning aircraft. You don't get many of those in inventories. And then you've got the Tu-95 Bear and the Tu-22 Tupolev Blackjack. But both of these aircraft can carry up to 8 cruise missiles and they can fly a long distance. We see Tu-95s coming around the Northern Cape, over the top of Norway, and then over the top of the UK and all the way down past Ireland. That's the range of these assets. So to have 40 of them taken out in this offensive drone strike by Ukraine will hit Putin really, really hard.
I just want to briefly ask you, because we're hearing reports on Reuters from Russia's defence ministry. They say all attacks on the airfields have been repelled, and they do say and confirm that several aircraft caught fire after those attacks. What about the defence systems then on the Russian side?
Well, I mean, the Russians just aren't will not have been prepared for something like this in Irkutsk, which is down near Mongolia. Russians have what's called S-400 anti-aircraft, anti-cruise missile systems, but they're designed to take out exactly that. They're not designed to take out drones. There's new technology in the counter UAS or the counter drone warfare space, which involves laser weapon systems. The Americans have trialed and proven a laser-based capability. The Brits are trying all sorts. They're looking at what's called RF, radio frequency, and that's basically either taking a drone out with something like RF or preventing at least the controller talking to the drone, so that the controller talks to the drone through an RF, a radio frequency, and it's intercepting that, if you like. But it's extremely difficult, and governments are behind the curve on this deterrence of drones, and Ukraine has basically exploited that because the Russians would never have expected something like this, and they were brought in through cabins on trucks, and then the roofs were taken off, and then the drones came up. I mean, this is it's genius if you think about just the devastating effect that it's had on strategic assets of Putin.